welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hisham Tilawi. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking about money. What happens if the United States go bankrupt? What happens to the world? What happens to you? Well, the picture is gloomy, and it does not look that good. You know, for years, we have told you on this show, and that time is here. But we've told you, and specifically in 2005, we said the war that we will lose is the economic war. We warned you a long time ago. Now, people are talking about it because it's here. It's here, and there's nothing anyone can do about. But we warned you 5 years ago that this time is coming. There is a war, a real war, ladies and gentlemen, going on in the world. It's an economic war, and it's much worse than the combat war. Now, the war that is going on, actually, we are paying for many years of using the world for nothing. We practically told the world to start using our dollar for their trade, and they did. We were coming out of victorious, I might add, out of the Second World War, and the dollar became the world reserve currency. What that means, it was the strongest and the most solid of all currencies that many governments have turned their reserves into dollars, and many countries have started using the dollar in their trade. Many countries would not even accept their own money when people are importing or buying from them. They were using the dollar. Now, where did that dollar come from? And how did we make that dollar? And how did we make that many dollars to actually spread all over the world? Well, it was very simple. Years ago, it used to be if you are a country and you want to issue money, currencies, you would have to have gold to back up your issuance of that currency. Well, in the 60s, the French came over and they said they turned many, many millions of United States dollars into gold. Well, we had to give them the gold. But then we had too many dollars around the world that we had not even enough gold, not even close to have enough gold to spread over all these dollars that we had printed. We were basically printing money. Yes, we were just printing money with nothing to back it up. So in 1971, we told the world, and we could do that at that time, that our dollar is strong enough on its own, it will stand on its own edges, and it does not need any gold to protect it, and therefore, you can only buy things from us for that dollar. You can no longer take gold for that dollar. Well, the world continued to use it, and the dollar became the most sought after currency in the world. Now things are different, and we told you this at the beginning of the war. We said things will not be kosher anymore. Well, probably they are in so many ways, but we're not going to be able to continue this. We're not going to be able to continue lying to the world and give them paper that has $100 written on it, and they will give us $100 worth of stuff, whatever they have. We practically were buying into all these economies with our fake dollars. But it was worth it. It was worth it because people believed in it and people were accepting it. Well, the G20, ladies and gentlemen, that is the group of 20, they met last Thursday in Seoul, South Korea. even though Seoul or South Korea is not part of that group of 20. But I guess its economy is so huge that they decided, and it was the first time that they hold this conference in Seoul, South Korea. Those are the, now under very heavy security, of course, and these are the South Korean police training just in case if something would happen to these world leaders who are part of the group of 20 leaders, which are the leading economies in the world. That very much includes the United States, it includes Brazil, China, Japan, Germany, etc., etc., and plus the European Union is also a member of that. 19 countries and the European Union is what actually makes the G20. Now, these are the people who very much control policies around the world when it comes to finance and otherwise. Well, right now we have a problem because the world is no longer believing in our dollar. And as a matter of fact, we do have in Seoul, South Korea, when the president was there, right next to the South Korean president, the journalists out there, the media, asked the South Korean president if he fears what the United States is doing with its economy, that it's going to be bad on your country. He jokingly said, ask me that question when the president of the United States is not standing next to me. But the Brazilian president, De Silva, he wasn't that nice about his answer. And he very much said that the United States will bankrupt the world if it continues with this economy that we have. Chinese, this is what the Chinese said. They said that the United States should not force others to take medicine for its own disease. Well, we do have a disease, and other countries don't want it. See, what we have done to actually trying, and it's not going to work, what we have done to get out of this, of course, we tried to sell our treasury bond, but China and Japan and Russia and all these countries that used to buy this, see, that's how we used to raise money. We used to, and we're going to tell you how money is actually made. And believe it or not, it's out of thin air. The Federal Reserve Bank will just say, okay, United States government, we will buy your treasury bond and we'll give you money. Now, the Federal Reserve Bank would tell the United States agency that is responsible for minting the currency, will tell them to print $100 billion, $400 billion, whatever the United States Treasury actually had issued these bonds. But other people used to buy those bonds, like the Chinese, the Japanese, etc. Not anymore, because those people are saying, look, your money is not worth anything anymore, and we don't want it. You know, forget about it. So the United States is fighting back, and it's fighting back in a very vicious way and very much waging war on the whole world. And I'm not kidding when I say that. That's why this group of 20, the world leaders, were not happy with Obama for what they had done a week before this meeting. What they had done, ladies and gentlemen, what the Federal Reserve Bank and the Obama administration actually did is they issued $600 billion worth of new money. The world did not like that, because what's going to happen when you issue $600 billion with money that you don't have? That's a debt. You're very much borrowing money that you don't have. So what's going to happen here is the value of the dollar is going to go low. And by the way, since the beginning of the war, the value of the dollar had went down over 25%. Since Obama took office, it went down 11%. What that means is if you have $100 in your pocket, well, it's not worth $100 anymore. It is 11%, $11 less, which is worth $89, just since Obama took office. Devaluing your currency is something that governments use to actually increase their export. Because when you make your money worth less, then you're going to have more people on the outside to buy your products. Except we really don't have many products that people can buy. But we can go and take our cheap money that is not worth anything when we flood the world market with $600 billion of American money. We can go and buy from those economies. We can go and buy their infrastructure. We can go and invest in these countries with actually worthless money. But we can't do that because the dollar is still the reserve currency. Well, people want to change that. Robert Zoellick, the director of the World Bank, he is saying, and he's an American, he was a Treasury official, United States Treasury official, but he's the director of the World Bank now. What he said that the dollar can no longer be the reserve currency of the world, that in order for us to save this world, we must change that system, go into another system where it takes the dollar, the euro, the yen, the Japanese yen, and the Chinese yuan, and come up with a new monetary system and currency system based on all these economies together, which means those economies would have to be bonded together. And by the way, the group of 20 did not like the $600 billion that Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank, issued just a week before Obama went on his trip. After 2 months ago, he said, we're not going to solve this problem by monetizing the problem, which is just to throw more money on there. But it did, and the world was watching. And the world told Obama that before you make any major financial decision, you need to consult with us. So you can rest assured there is a war going on right now in the world because we're trying to save our economy at the expense of everybody else in the world by issuing fake dollars. And the world is basically putting our feet to the fire with issuing these $600 billion. Now, let's give you a little lesson of what is the Federal Reserve Bank. And by the way, there's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve Bank. Let's go ahead and play this little clip that is going to teach you what is the actual Federal Reserve Bank, and when we come back, we're going to tell you more about what is going on in the financial world and how when the United States goes bankrupt, the whole world goes bankrupt because a lot of these economies are dependent on the fake dollar. Let's do it. Okay, that's good. Okay. Well, to summarize things for you, ladies and gentlemen, there are few people in the world, few people in the United States who control money, and you owe everything to them. The Constitution said that the Congress of the United States is the only one that can actually issue money. That's what what the Constitution said. But back in 1907, these 13 families, the Rockefeller, the Rothschild, the Morgans, the other families, very well-known names families, who met secretly on Jekyll Island, and they decided to come up with a central bank for the United States, come up with a plan for a central bank. A central bank in a government, in a country, normally is controlled by the government. It is not controlled by private entities. In this country, the government, when they need money, they will go to the central bank, which is the Federal Reserve Bank. It is named so they can cheat you of your money. There's nothing federal about it. Just like the little clip have explained, they bent the arms of our politicians by bribing them, by putting money in their campaign's pocket so they can agree to this. Just like it said, Senator Nelson Eldridge, he was the one to introduce the Federal Reserve Bank Act that was voted on in 1911 when Congress was 2 days before they go on Christmas, 2 days before they go out on a holiday. So they passed it. President Nelson, who promised during his campaign that he will sign it, and he did sign it in 1911. Do you see who's buying our president and our politicians? From the beginning. That's how politicians are bought and paid for. So the President of the United States knew while he was campaigning, they pumped millions of dollars into his campaign, and he signed it. Senator Eldridge, the same thing. He later on married into the Rockefeller family. Rockefeller, Rothschild, rings a bell? Yes, it does. Okay, so now the United States government a week ago told the Federal Reserve Bank, hey, we want $600 billion. Now the Federal Reserve Bank is the one that issues money. It's the private bank that was legitimized by the illegal act of Congress. Okay? Sure, it was routine, and they signed and everything signed, so it became legal. But does that become legal in your mind, in your heart? Is it because our corrupt government, just like it has been all along, just because they said yes, does that make it right? Does that make it right? No, it does not make it right. It doesn't matter that it's legal because we have corrupt government and corrupt politicians. It's still not right, and it's still the biggest robbery of the United States. Who, the Treasury would have to pay that money back with interest. Anytime we issue money, we go deeper and deeper in debt. Anytime the United States government issues money, and that's why the world is mad, because $600 billion that the United States will get out of nothing. Nothing, period. So the United States told the Federal Reserve Bank, we want $600 billion. The Reserve Bank went on the computer and gave the United States Treasury $600 billion. Now the United States Treasury can do whatever they want with that $600 billion. That came out of nothing, period. But who's going to have to pay that money? You. You're already paying it. Your dollar is not worth what it was just a week ago. Your dollar is not worth. Think about it for those of you who understand stock splits. When your dollars are worth so much, when your stocks are worth so much, and then the company splits it 2-to-1. Well, now the value of the stock, even though you still own, let's say $10,000 worth of stocks, but the value of each stock is now half price. And that's what's going to happen with our dollar. When our dollar, now our dollar is being devalued, and the world is trying desperately not to have the United States devalue their dollar. But when the United States issues $600 billion out of nowhere, the dollar would have to be devalued. What that means is the value of the dollar will go down. Why are we doing this? It's our last, and it's not going to work. Mark my words. It's our last resort to cheat the world by issuing fake money in order to bring the value of our dollar back down, so other people in the world, our export would go higher. Because if our export, if our deficit, if we can play with that a little bit, and we are forcing the world actually to do it by doing what we have done, and we actually told India and China and the rest of the world that, wait a minute, we need more, a little more of what we're doing in terms of exports. Because your economy, any country's economy, is dependent on how much export that country is exporting. And we're not exporting as much as we used to. We don't make anything around here anymore. We turned our economy into a service-oriented economy, and nobody wants our services. We don't have products anymore. Our factories are shut down. The products that we used to make here, they are being made after American products were the best in the world. And I'm talking about everything. An American product, something that has made in the USA on it, used to be worth something. Our stores used to be full of things that we manufactured here. Not anymore. Go to Walmart. Go to all these stores, department stores. Look where things are made. They're not made in the United States. They are made in China and other places. We are actually telling China to give us some of their export, some of that piece of the pie that they have, and they told us, go to hell. You made your bed, you lay in it. And that's exactly what is happening right now. Now, it's not going to work. $600 billion of fake money when everybody in the world is against us with this economic war. We just waged an economic war on the world, and we're going to lose. Now, I told you this before, and I said, mark my words. And some of you who have been watching the program in the last 7 or 8 years, you know I have said this on this program, and I even said, mark my words. The economic war is the one we will lose. Our stealth bombers will not help us. Our missiles will not help us. Our nuclear bombs will not help us. But we are waging war on the world, because in order for us to try to save our economies, we must destroy the world's economies. And people in the world know that. If this subject is a little bit too much for you, well, we really cannot simplify it more than we are simplifying it. The United States is waging a war on the world, economic war, to save itself, and the world is standing solid against it. We saw this in the G20 meeting last Thursday. Right now, the world is demanding that we do not make any financial decisions. Remember, every country in the world is dependent on the dollar. Do you know many people around the world, their savings, they're not in their own currency. Many people, because the dollar was the reserve currency and it was the solid currency, it was better than gold. They have their savings in dollars. And when that dollar tanks, everyone goes with it. And that's basically the suicide mission that the United States is going through with the world. And the world is very scared. Now, when they're very scared, they're going to do some drastic actions, and they have. Many countries started dumping the dollar. And if we continue on this, because if we don't listen to what the world, we must, and this is what these people in the G20 said last time in Canada when they met. Actually, Sarkozy said it. They said this meeting is, he liked the meeting because they had a meeting of the minds at that time that we are going to solve the economic problem in the world together because we are in it together. But this time around, they saw the United States going a different way. So, the one who gives us money, there are very few families who control our money supply, and they can't do anything. Remember what happened in the 1930s? When people were wary of this Federal Reserve Bank that started back in 1911, because people knew what was happening. President Nixon himself said he regretted that decision of signing. Look, you can regret it after you are in office. But before you reach there, you're willing to kill your own mother just so you can get into that office. And President Nixon, he knew it. And that's exactly what he decided to do. Get the campaign money, and he signed the Federal Reserve Bank. Morgan, when they found out that, whoa, people figured out what they're doing, he sent this country into a depression. Yes, J.P. Morgan sent this country. He is the sole man, one man, sent this country into a depression. And those of you who read about depression in your life or in history, you know how bad a depression is. These people control the economy. And they can send, just like they did it in 1930, they can do it now. Thousands of banks who refused to be part of the Federal Reserve Bank because they figured out, well, wait a minute, we're not going to do that. The whole thing about sending the banking industry down and sending the whole country into depression was to get rid of the banks, and there were thousands of them who refused to be part of the Federal Reserve Bank. Thousands of them went bankruptcy. Factories closed. People went to get their money. Many banks did not have their money. Don't think when you take money to your bank that they keep that money there, and whenever you need it, you go get it. No. By law, they are required to keep 10% of what they bring in, and they loan back the rest. And we've showed you one time, we're not going to go through the details of how money is made. When you take $100,000 to the bank, they can loan 90% of that to somebody else. They give you a check with $90,000 in it. You go buy a house, you take it to your bank. That bank gets that $90,000 check that you got from the first bank. They put it in their bank, and 10% of that they have to keep. So they keep $9,000 and $81,000 that they can loan to somebody else. And it goes on and on and on. By the time you finish with that, $100,000 is worth $1 million. So $100,000, $1 million. So, of money, air money, just came out of nowhere, nothing. Well, speaking of money, we do have, politics and money. You see, they play with politics. They play with billions of dollars, and you're trying to scrape pennies. You're trying to scrape pennies so you can feed your family and put a roof over their heads. So you can save a little bit of money for your children's education. So you can save a little bit of money for your health when you need it. And politicians will play with your money. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, ultimately, it is you who has to make that money. The government does not make money. You owe that money to the Federal Reserve Bank because taxes. The government would have to get that money from you. When you go to work, they take that money And that's how they repay part of that money that they owe the Federal Reserve Bank when it's nothing federal about it. Well, the latest playing with money, ladies and gentlemen, happened just a couple of days ago when Benjamin Netanyahu was in town. The United States government want to hold on what is going on between the Palestinians and the Israelis. This so-called fake peace negotiations. This so-called fake and lying and cheating. So after 8 hours meeting this past weekend between Netanyahu and Clinton, the United States begged the Israeli government to please continue or put a freeze on building settlements in the Palestinian territories. And there are hundreds of settlements being built. They're building on land that was supposed to be negotiated on in a peace settlement. So the Palestinians are saying, wait a minute, you know, these people don't want peace. These people are building on our land. So what do they want to negotiate for? What do they want to negotiate on? So the United States said, you see, all these dots that you see there, that's nothing but settlements that Israel is building on Palestinian land. This is not inside Israel or the borders of Israel, whatever those borders might be. What you're seeing there is the West Bank that is allocated for a Palestinian state, which very much left less than 9% of the West Bank left. So now we want the Israelis to freeze settlements for 90 days after 8 hours meetings, that meeting with Netanyahu, and they gave them some excellent deals. They are going to give the Israelis, you, the United States taxpayer, just offered the Israelis 20 F-35 fighters. They're worth about $3 billion. That's it right there. 20 of them are worth $3 billion. Money that you don't have, money that I don't have, money that the United States government doesn't have. But hey, they're giving them that because they know you're going to be working and paying your taxes. So they give this to the Israelis for 90 days freeze on building settlement in the West Bank. And that even does not even include East Jerusalem, which is Palestinian, and it's supposed to be the Palestinian capital. Clinton, she even made the deal. Okay, just the West Bank, continue building in East Jerusalem. They even went further to say, look, we will stop everything that is going on, investigations about the Gaza flotilla, the Turkish flotilla, you know, where the United Nations and the investigations found that these people were murderers. Speaking of those people, Netanyahu just awarded those thugs and those murderers who went down to that ship and killed those people. He awarded them Medal of whatever the heck it is, Medal of Murders. So, and the United States said, don't worry about the Goldstone report. We're going to stop it. And we are, if you sign a peace agreement, we even going to sign a security agreement with you. If the Israelis sign a peace agreement, the United States is saying that we are going to sign a security agreement, a comprehensive security agreement with you. What that means? That the Israelis become in control as if they're not. They become in control of our military. They become in control of NATO. They become in control of everything. And that will be officially. See, right now they do it unofficially. They do it because they are bribing our politicians, just like their brethren are bribing our politicians with the Federal Reserve Bank. You heard Congressman Ron Paul when he asked him, who owns the Federal Reserve Bank? It's secret. But of course, we know who owns it. It's these families, the families that started it. But it's secret. You heard what Alan Greenspan, the Federal Reserve Chairman who stayed there for since Reagan, I think. He said it's an independent agency. And he even continued to say, no government agency can overrule us. No government agency can overrule our decisions. What that means? Nothing, no one in the government of the United States and its systems can overrule the Federal Reserve Bank, not even the President of the United States himself, not even Congress, not even nobody. Nobody. And you know what the worst thing about this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen? The worst thing is when the Federal Reserve Bank actually gives us money, we have to pay for the printing. Because they order through the Treasury Department, U.S. Mint, which is basically to mint those dollars and print those dollars, and you have to even pay for money that they gave us out of nothing with interest. It's unbelievable. Yes, it is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. There is nothing, absolutely nothing that can be done about it. I'm not telling you this to tell you that something is going to be done about it. This is much bigger than your congressman. This is much bigger than your president. This is not much bigger than anything we have. Money. He who controls the gold controls everything. We've said this on this program many, many times before. But you don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know, you think because Franklin is on the dollar bill, because no, Franklin's on the 100, isn't it? I don't know. I think George Washington is on the dollar bill. So anyway, you have these presidents on the dollar bill, and you think it's an American money. It's legal because we got our dead presidents on there. It's not. And nothing makes it legal. It is illegal money. It is illegal institution. The Federal Reserve Bank is an illegal institution. And you know something? Everyone who tried to do something about it lost his life. Anyone who can actually affect that, both Kennedys, John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy lost their lives. One of the main reasons, there were so many reasons, because this cartel, this mafia, this mob, not just the Reserve Bank, many other things. They control the media. They try to do something with that. They control nuclear reactors around the world. Just like when they tried to actually stop the nuclear reactor in Israel, John Kennedy tried. They lost their lives, both of them. Both of them wanted to find a different institution. He wanted to do away with the Federal Reserve Bank. He lost his life. Few senators, they wanted to do something about it. One of them was poisoned. It's a sad fact. You really cannot do something about it. You know, I keep saying that it's not something, but the sad thing about it is when you have $3 billion of your money, of your hard-earned money, go to Israel just to stop settlements freeze for 90 days. That's it. They were bending over backwards to please Netanyahu. Obama could not even be in the country. He was trying to beg other countries to accept our deal, and nobody did. Because they know our economy is doomed. Look, How much money we spent on the war? $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion? Money we don't have? That's another devaluation of the dollar. This is the United States of America that we live in. And the truth must be told. They don't tell you the truth because you know something? If mass media would dare tell you this, they'll be gone the next day. But they're not worried about us here because we're not going to affect the masses. We're not going to affect the millions of people who should hear this and who should know the truth about the Federal Reserve Bank, who should know the truth about the economy that we are in, who should know the truth about the future. But they don't want you to panic. They don't want you to go and get your money out of the banks. They don't even have the money. Try to go to the bank and get your money. They don't have it. They don't have it. They only keep 10% of what they bring in, even if it's a check. Doesn't matter what it is. Because, see, money is not just the dollars that you take to the bank. Money can only be even just a little, few digits in the computer. And that's money. We have so much money printed on dollars that those dollars will be coming back to the United States. They will be coming back in boxes, probably draped with the American flag. Because those money, when it comes back, you know, we've used that money to control countries in the world, to control people in the world for many, many years. And that is part of our imperialism. That is part of our, you don't like to hear this, but we have cheated the world long enough because the rest of the world was stupid enough to actually accept our dollar. That is now, is really not worth much. So, these are the facts that you have, and we very much, this is not the first time we talk about this. You know, the main reason that we brought it up, you know, we've talked about the Federal Reserve Bank, and we've talked about how money is made. The main reason is because I told you so. The G20 meeting last Thursday and the $600 billion that we issued a week prior to that, that's what made us decide that it's extremely important to explain what is happening to you, that many, many media outlets out there, even those who will even talk about this, they're not going to explain to you where money came from to pay for the $600 billion. You know, if we have a deficit, where do we get the money? We borrow it? Well, when you are broke and bankrupt, and when you are in the hole, you borrow, all you're doing is you making yourself, your self-worth less and less and less and less. And every time you issue money, you're making yourself less and less worth. So we are worthless economically. It is World War IV, the economic war. And he who's going to win it will be the next victorious for the next 100 years, I guess. Every 100 years, we have an empire. It was the British Empire in the 1800s. We were there in the 1900s. And now it's the Chinese. It's their time. It's their time to be the superpower. It is their time to be the super economic. As a matter of fact, they are the super economic power. They have a heck of a lot more people than we do, or we dream of having. Reality check, and it is here. 5 years ago, we said, do something, do something, do something. Call your congressman, call your senator. You didn't do it. So now Hold on to your savings because they will be worth even less and less. Gold. Gold is like what? $1,500 an ounce? An ounce of gold, $1,500. And the world is going to have to go to gold standard for their currencies. Ladies and gentlemen, when that happens, we're gone. Economically, we're gone. You don't believe it? Just look around you. Look around you. Look around all the factories that used to be pumping in the country. Look around the middle class. What happened to it? Well, the big bankers want to own it. You see, the only way they can do this, because they have other plans in their mind. They want to enslave us. And they are. Because right now, all we have time to actually do is work so we can feed our children. That's it. Don't have time to do anything else. And all we have time right now to do and say is, good night, go do the right thing. It has been a pleasure, and we'll see you next Thursday. Same place, same time, with hopefully much better news than this. Go do the right thing.